I want to walk you guys through the process of gridding up your picture and tearing down the large size paper, but for the old master drawing. So first step, of course, is to print out your nice large version of your image you're going to be working with. This is not a full figure, but it's one that had the dimensions that I was looking for. So first step is to go ahead and cut your image all the way down and get rid of any of the white border that might be there. That's going to be really, really important. If you don't cut the image down, it's going to change the proportions, and that is not a good thing. You will want to be extra careful as you cut, because you also don't want to change the shape of your paper. That can be problematic. Okay, get that off of here. So I've got my now newly sized piece of paper. The first step that you need to do is take your old master drawing, and we need to, your old master paper, and we need to make it proportional. We need to make this piece of paper the same shape, the same proportional shape as this piece of paper. You can see this is a little bit more square, this is a little bit longer. Usually sometimes you get a piece that's exactly proportional with your paper, but not always. So I'm going to do it from this direction here. So I'm going to line it up so that the edges are square in the corners. So I've got it nice and set in the corners. And this is also featured in the other video, but I wanted you to see it with the large old master drawing paper as well. So I've got my image in the corner, and then you're going to want to take some kind of a large ruler. If you've got a wooden yardstick, that would work perfectly. If not, any piece of wood, 2x4 you got laying around the house, anything that's a long straight edge will function in this capacity. Even another piece of large paper. Since you've got two pieces of large paper, you could theoretically use the other piece of paper basically as a really long ruler. So I'm going to use this since I have it. I'm going to go from the bottom corner through the top left corner of the image. I'm going to line those two things up and make sure that that looks good. This is a really important step, so I wanted to make sure to demo it to get it right. So if I follow that, so these two lines line up now, these two corners line up, and that line extends all the way to the edge of the paper. And you can see it doesn't go all the way to the edge of the actual paper. It goes to about partly way there. I'm going to mark this here, okay? Now it is worth noting, and so I've made a little teeny mark right here on the edge of that paper. That's going to be really important. One thing to note, and where people tend to go wrong, is they'll take this image here, which is clearly horizontal, and they'll put it in the corner vertically. And then, of course, the line's going to be here. You're going to end up with a much smaller piece of paper. We want these to be nice, big drawings, so you have lots of room to work. So you want to make sure not to do that. You want it to be, if it's a horizontal-ish drawing, you want to put it on the paper when it's mostly horizontal. So I've drawn my line. I've got my point here. And what this point is, ultimately, is the mark that's going to show where I'm going to rip my paper. Now I talked about this, but I didn't show you, so I want to show you this step. Whatever you do, do not use scissors to cut this really beautiful paper. This paper is meant to be torn, not cut. So here we go. We've got this nice deckled edge. We want to preserve that. So the first step for me that I like to do is just go ahead and I'm just going to fold it. So when you fold the edge, if you've got that little point there, I'm going to pick it up, do this. When you fold the edge, if you fold it so that these two edges line up, it's going to give you a nice clean edge. You can also measure if you'd like. I'm down with measuring. I'm going to go ahead and fold. This is the one time where I want you to fold the whole edge all the way down. And if you kept those two edges here lined up, then we'll get a nice perfectly level edge, which I love. All right, before we try to tear it, we want to make sure that we fold it a couple times back and forth, okay? Kind of like if you know how, trying to think of an example. I guess an example would be like if you dog ear a book page too much, that edge gets really weak. So fold it back. I'm going to fold it back again. And what this is doing is just weakening the bonds of the paper, weakening the fibers of the paper in that area, just by going back and forth. Okay, sweet. And I'm going over the same folds. I was not making a new fold or anything like that. All right, so now that's pretty weak. I want to go ahead and switch because I'm right-handed. You're going to take something heavy, again like a wooden yardstick, or again a piece of wood, something like that. You're going to put it on the side of the paper that you want to keep, that side edge, and then very gently you want to pull up and over this way. If you just pull straight, a lot of times the tear will go in that direction. So we want to kind of be putting pressure here, and then we're pulling up, kind of up, and in that direction at the same time. So up, and I'm doing it a little bit at a time so it doesn't get carried away. You can even take a wet paintbrush and go over it with just plain water. Sometimes that helps to get a little bit easier tear on your paper. And voila! Now we have got our little scrap of paper, and more importantly, we preserved a beautiful deckled edge, or something close to a deckled edge, as opposed to a nice, really sharp, crisp cut edge. And now our two pieces of paper are proportional with each other. So that's pretty much it. So you definitely want to do that before you go to the next step, which is the folding and the drawing of the lines. One quick note about when you are folding your paper, because the next step basically would be to come in here and fold and pinch. Just be reminded, you're never, ever, ever going to fold the whole edge. You don't want to do that. You just want to fold, get those corners matched up, and pinch. Okay? And then that pinch that's there, you can see it, but it's not gonna be there permanently, where a big fold will. And then we'll do the pinch at the other end. And again, the other video covers this. I'm not going to go too much into this process. Pinch. And then once you've got those two pinches, you can again take your either a large piece of paper or a wooden meter stick, something like that, and very lightly with a pencil draw your line for your grid. Can you guys see that line? No, you can't, because it's drawn really, really lightly, and that's the way I want you guys to do that. And then the rest of your grid you would build out the exact same way. Two pinches, draw a line really, really lightly. Usually we have it broken up into, 4 quarters vertically and then 4 quarters horizontally. Okay, so that's that. So let me know if you have any questions, and hold on to this. This is great practice paper.